Okay, Lawrence, we're back. And today
we're back.
About money.
We're talking about money.
Super important. What do you think about that?
Oh man, I love money. I'm a big fan of it. So yeah, let's dive in, man, and let's see where we end up.
So, Lawrence, first and foremost, how do you feel about money?
Yeah, I feel pretty good about it. Look, if I was to be honest, and I've said this before, I've always been worried about money. Why have I always been worried about money? Well, it's because when I was young and when I was growing up, we didn't have any. As I've said before, you know, when you grow up poor, I think you respect money more. When you grow up having to work hard for what you have, you're less entitled. And I just think that's how human beings work. So I've always got a lot of scarcity around money, and I don't know why. You know, I have money, relatively healthy security in my life for myself and my family. I've got good investments, you know, I've got cash. I have a healthy companies, and I'm still worried about money. And I'll probably always be worried about money, but maybe that's a superpower, right? I'm starting to learn now to balance that a little bit better, where I don't, you know, have to work the 80, 100 hours a week, every week like I thought I had to because I didn't have money and I had scarcity. You should always feel good about money because it can do great things. And if you're a young entrepreneur and a young business owner, you should be working 80 hours a week and earning as much money as you can. So how do I feel about money? I like it. I think it's required. I think it can do good things for lots of people, and I think I have a little bit of worry around it, but I'm starting to get over it.
About money, like there's a lot of mixed feelings about money. People feel differently. How should people feel about money?
I think be agnostic with it, right? Like be impartial with it. Don't love it, don't hate it. Just look at it as a practical vehicle to get to where you need to get to. You know, we live on an economic planet, people. It requires good economics. You know, if you wanted to go on holiday with your family, if you want to wear nice clothes, drive nice cars. Like yourself, you know, if you want to have a Lamborghini, a Ferrari, and a Bugatti, you know, parked in your garage, that's fine, you can do that. But it requires good economics to be able to buy that type of asset, right? And if people say otherwise, be cautious of those words because, you know, you need it. Right? And it's not evil. People are evil. Money is fine. And you can do some great things with it, like I said before.
There's a saying that even winning the lottery doesn't make you rich. Why do you think people struggle with getting financial independence? Why is that?
I think there's a problem with financial illiteracy on the planet. You know, and I think it's broken into three stages, into three demographics, I should say. When you come from a poor family, you normally stay there. You know, there has to be a certain event or a person or a situation in an economy or in a society or when you're going through a transition. You know, if you're lucky enough to go to university, to get a good education, to really shake you to get you out of that environment. And sometimes it's great to be the one person in your whole family history that can do that. I was that for my family. No one in my family went to university. Nobody got a degree. But I think most people are pretty financially illiterate. I think they work all their lives to buy a house, a Labrador, a white picket fence, have 2.5 children. I get it. And if you're happy doing that, you should do that. But it can be so much more than that. And I think, and the reason why people don't do more than that is because they think that's all they're capable of, because they don't understand the definition of how money works. Rich people get richer and poor people get poorer. There's a reason for that, and it's education and it's knowledge, right? As Ty Lopez says, knowledge. Like you need it, right? Because without it, you don't know what to do. There's no place on this planet that you can win without knowledge and experience. It's just not. So, you know, my advice to people who grow up poor like I did, you have to go and seek knowledge. First, you have to be aware. So someone has to tell you, or you have to figure it out yourself. So you have to self-educate yourself. Like go and do a finance course online. You probably find one for free, or spend the $99, right? I was illiterate and then I became literate, right? But I had to force myself to do that. So that would be my advice.
Why do you think a lot of rappers, when they get their first millions and people who win the lottery become poor and miserable? Why is that?
Rappers specifically, huh?
Yeah, rappers, I don't know.
Yeah, okay, let's talk about Kanye and Jay-Z. No, let's not do that. Some of them were born with that and they didn't really have to earn it. Like they knew, they may have grown up in an environment. Like I know Kanye, I remember listening to some podcasts and some interviews with him. You know, he was relatively driven, even though he was in California and around people when that whole market was starting to take off, that whole music market was starting to take off. You know, he was lucky to be a talented black man in an environment in Los Angeles in a country that allowed him to be successful. How easy is it in the 80s, 90s to be a white Caucasian man with a university education? So there are circumstances and environments that procure success and good, healthy economics. If I was to say why someone in that space didn't respect the economics that they have or the money that they had earned, it's because they didn't earn it. Because when you work for something, especially money, you protect it, right? Like it's your own child. Well, I certainly do. You respect what you have to work hard for, and you don't when you don't.
A lot of people buy Lamborghinis and expensive Rolex watches and things you shouldn't be buying with your money, or things that are above your means, right? So these people need advice. Like, what is the best financial advice you've ever been given?
There's technical advice and then there's general behavioral advice. I think they're in two categories. If I was to think about technical advice, I love the concept of compound interest. Now, I didn't learn that until later on in life. I wish I'd known that in my early 20s. Because it would have been a game changer for me. If I was investing $500 a month when I was 22, I'd be a multimillionaire now. So I should have learned where to invest my money, what quantity, like how much per month that I could afford within my budget. Stop driving the BMW, get the Toyota Camry, what a great car. Get the Toyota Camry and give up on all that really think deeply about, okay, what's going to happen in the next 20 years of my life. The other thing was I learned really quickly was don't exceed your burn rate. Don't overspend money that you do not own or have, right? Like, look at credit card debt on the planet. I think, there's almost a third of people in this country are living on credit card debt. In America, I think it's over 40%. And that's debt that incurs interest for anything from 10, 12 through to 20, 25%. So if you're working a job and you're earning X amount of dollars, you have to know what your expenses are. The hardest thing is discipline, I think, because you want to go out on that wedding anniversary, you want to take the kids on that vacation, you want to buy the car you don't really need, right? And then what happens is you borrow money, so you increase debt. You use credit cards, you increase debt, right? And then what happens is if your income doesn't increase with alignment with the interest you pay on that debt or inflation, you go into debt. And it's very hard to call yourself out of that, like super hard. But that is the majority of people, and that's how they manage their economics. And it's a lack of understanding about how economics and finances work. If I was to think about compound interest, what would I invest my money into? I think you need to learn that. Really dug deep on learning all about money in the last sort of 10 to 15 years, and then started accumulating it, right? I still have the scarcity around. I don't know why, but shit, I've got to get over that. But if I had done that when I was 22, I'd be so much better off right now. And I'd probably be a different person in a different position in life, right? So when I think back about that, the only thing I didn't do was be aware. I was living my life as a 22-year-old, years out of high school, playing gigs and music, touring and doing that sort of stuff, working a job as well, a 9 to 5. And not once did I ever think, I should invest money. It wasn't until, I was later in my 20s where I decided to buy a house. Even though that's a great investment, it wasn't a good investment for me at the time. And I didn't even see it as an investment. I saw it as security. Now, people buy things, assets, for security reasons. It's to make them feel better. It's not an investment when you buy a house, by the way. It is not an investment. People think it is, it's not. It's just an asset. And most people buy the asset as security for their family, and it makes them feel good. But you don't make any money out of it. You may make money out of it if you sell it. Some people buy a house for $1 million, sell it for 1.5, and then go buy a house for 1.8, because that makes them feel good. And I think those feelings sometimes get you to exceed your burn rate, and you get into financial trouble. So people should stop doing that, but they'll need to seek advice and become aware to be able to be successful in that space, I think.
Could you just name one thing that you would advise people to buy that actually goes up in value, that actually increases their financial freedom or their financial situation?
Well, they could send all their money to me. Like, that would be great. There's one true investment that you should always invest in, and the first best investment should be in yourself. I don't think you should invest in things that you cannot afford, right? And I don't think you should buy things that you cannot afford. I remember I changed my golden rule when I turned about 32, right? Which is, over 100 years ago. I said to myself, I cannot buy anything unless I have 2x the amount of cash sitting in my bank account. So if the car's $100,000, I need more than $200,000 in my bank account to be able to warrant me making a decision to buy a vehicle for 100K, right? That became a belief system and a rule for me. But how did I get to that? I had to learn, so I had to educate myself. I did courses online. I did courses and classes. I went to uni and did courses. And I really started digging deep on what money is and what economics are. Like, there is a system to money, and rich people know this and poor people do not. You have to go and find the system, so you have to educate yourself. So you have to go and find the people who can give you access to the information, including the tax codes, including where to invest your money, So seek advice from professionals. And sometimes you're going to have to stop buying all the dumb shit and the $700 shoes. Healthy economics requires patience. It takes time, right? It's very hard to make money really, really quickly. One of the most fastest ways you can do it is in a startup. I get that, but that's high risk, right? But you know, if you were to do a 401k or invest in an ETF, you know, you'll get 9, 10, 12% tops. So that's a long play. And you have to have a large amount of cash flow in there to really reap big returns, right? If you were to buy Apple when they were in their second or third year after going public, well, that's a good move. NVIDIA, that's a good move. Starlink, that's a good move. But outside of that, it's very rare to be able to find companies that you can throw money into and, you know, 10, 20, 30x your return. Do courses and learn and be aware of the information that you need to have good, healthy economics.
How do you deal with financial risks within the business?
If you have a business, you're in startup, or you know, you want to build a company, or you're 1 or 2 years in, what you should have, and I've spoken about this before, is educated people around you who specialize in financial management. By the way, if someone's coaching you on financial independence, they probably don't have any, because people who are financially independent are not coaches. Like true financial independence, right? Those are guys looking to make off you 2, 3, 4, 5 grand a month. So they're earning an income. So if I was to think about financial independence, you know, you have to pay for this, by the way, it's not free. So outside of education, put that to one side. Large companies will have a chief financial officer, a CFO, right? They'll have a board, and on that board, there'll be financial and legal experts and all these people, right? But if you're in startup, you don't have a board, you don't have an advisory board. You know, you haven't IPO'd, you're not a public company, and you probably don't have enough revenue in the business to pay for high-level advisory. So my advice is, even before you start a startup business, already plug into those people, generate relationships with them, because they can help you carry along the way. My core advice, and that's super practical, is find a accountant. Whether it's an IPA or a management accountant, I would advise to get a management accountant. If you can afford it, pay the extra 25%, because they are going to be able to wrap more rules around your economics in your business than a general accountant will. So a general accountant will manage your money, do your invoicing, you know, set up your reports, all that sort of stuff, and they're more maintenance. A management accountant will hold you accountable to the P&L. So they'll say, hey, we noticed that costs in your tech stack increased by 8% last month. Why was that? Like, there's no room for error in that first 3 years. You got to be right on top of your finances and your cash flow. The other thing is, I would look at your money every day. Like, if you're losing money and you look at it every day, that should be a good push for you to get your shit together and to really, really sort of figure out, oh God, how do I turn this around? And here's the thing, if you're losing money and you don't know about it, you'll have to close the doors eventually. But if you've got good people around you, they'll hold you accountable to your numbers, and then you can get to fixing it sooner rather than later.
What about myths? People think different things about money, right? So is there any big myth that, you know, scare people or that hold people back from actually, you know, becoming rich or having a lot of money?
Well, there are those people with scarcity financially out there, right, who think that money is evil. Money is not evil. People are evil. Money in the right hands can do great things, and the wrong hands can do really bad things, right? Like, we've witnessed that historically. I think people look at successful people and go, hey, I didn't have the courage to do that, so I'm just going to put you down, because that's the easiest way for me to accept myself, right? And I think that's a real thing. I know in some countries, and here they call it tall poppy syndrome, right? Where when someone's being really successful, they say things like this. They say, oh, they just do it for the money. There's nothing wrong with that. Oh, look, they're probably dishonest. You know, like, I've had people hate me online saying that, you know, I'm taking money off on good quality, hardworking people. I'm not doing that. I've never done that. They use that as an excuse for them not to be successful. You know, if you're completely impartial and independent, that really shouldn't matter. How do people see it, and why do people not like it? I think, you know, they just need to look in the mirror, because I think that's truly what it is. You know, you have to be super candid with yourself and honest with yourself in terms of that, but I don't think most people are. That's cool, no harm, no foul. Just, you can say whatever you want to yourself. But you asked me the question, right? That's how I see it.
What's a money tip to entrepreneurs to make them succeed?
Well, there's many. If you're an entrepreneur starting a business, have an accountant. Pick a good one. If you're going to invest in an accountant, invest the extra 25% and get a management accountant. My second piece of advice is understand the P&L technically. Like, know what your operating expenditure is, know what your cost centers are. Third thing is, check your bank account every day. When I was in startup, and I've had a few startups, the first thing I do in the morning is check my bank account. Because I want to know, how hard do I have to work today? Are we okay? The fourth thing is, you need to educate yourself. Like, I think if you're a new business owner and there's things you don't know, you have to go and learn those things. Now, I know new entrepreneurs have to be, you know, the CEO, you know, the IT guy, the sales guy, the marketing guy. I get it. Take off your poopy pants, because that's just what you have to do. You have to be that person. You need to move fast. That's why looking at your accounts every day is important. Setting up the reporting in your accounting system is super important. Whether you want to keep a spreadsheet or whatever it is, as soon as you start to see a decline, my thing is let it run for a week. If it hasn't pulled itself back to where you think it should be, if you have a forecast, and you should have a forecast, is you need to move quickly. One of the other things I said before, don't exceed your burn rate. Capital expenditure, you know, understand it. Like, don't spend too much money in your business. I know you want to spend the extra $2,000 a week on Meta advertising so you can get more leads, so you can close more deals and make more money. But you have to be very considered and very slow with that. So my advice is just be cautious with overspending in the business, especially in that first 12 months. The other thing is know your tax system in the country in which you reside, right? You can leverage tax well. If you have a good management accountant, depending on what industry you are in, there may be some tax benefits. Hey, everyone should pay their taxes, don't get me wrong. You need to understand how you can leverage that and benefit from reducing costs and paying money to the tax man, mate, because no one wants to do that. The next thing is location. Are you in the right place? You know, depending on the business and what you're trying to achieve. I used to think about this a lot. I think, wow, am I starting the business in the right city? There's half a dozen cities that will put you in a position where you could win with a relatively successful percentage or ratio. And then there's cities on this planet which will just make it hard for you. You got to think about the market, like where is your market? And maybe it's not in the city that you think it is. So most entrepreneurs don't really do a market analysis. And not just domestically, but globally, right? We could have an office in New York, all right? We could have an office in Asia, a whole bunch of different places, but why? So I always think about talent. This is the first thing. You know, if I was to grow a company and I needed X amount of talent, and this is the type of talent I need, where does that talent live? Maybe you need to build a business in that area, in that talent pool, right? And the last thing is margins. What's your cost of sale? How much does it cost you for you to deliver your product to the market? You know, you want your gross profitability, your GP, to be around 30% at a minimum, I think. So a third of expenditure. Your net profitability should be at least 50 to 60% of that. That's what I think. If you can manage to do that, you'll have enough cash flow to keep the business healthy when it goes up and when it goes down. So understanding your margins, I think, is pretty important. So thank you for listening. Really do appreciate it. Love if you would subscribe if you like what we're doing on this channel. That would be appreciated. So click on the button. Hit the like as well, and we'll see you on the next video. Thanks.